Guys, I don't know if I'm online or I'm not online, but I can't find I can't find the. Oh, I know what's wrong. Don't laugh. Bear with me. This is not where I want to be. This is where I want to be. Now, maybe I'm here. Can you guys see me? Maple Bacon. Good morning, Tina. Good morning, Carol. Good morning, Maple Bacon. Good morning, Tennessee Bear. Good morning, Francisco. All right, let's get the donuts out, brother. Yeah, I'm online now. I couldn't find myself. I know you guys are wondering just who is this guy and how the hell did he ever get on the line? Maple Bacon says, "Good morning, Carol, Tina, Tim, Francisco, and everyone watching. Please don't forget to hit that like button." Thank you, Mike. I bet I don't even know if my wife will be on. She's not. She's neat. I don't think either one of us slept. I don't think either one of us slept last night. But so far, I'm still wide awake. Of course, I did get up earlier and take a shower. That helped a little bit. Maple Bacon, Tina, is a happy name. I mean, with the exception of his wife, I think the idea of maple bacon makes everybody happy, or just about everybody. Well, I put wax on my mustache earlier today. It seems like it's already gone. Oh well. Oh, I don't know if my brother will be with us or not. He's in the Great White North. I think maybe even more than. Well, I don't know what you guys have got now, but I don't know what anybody's got. Let's do a weather around the nation here. Tina, what are you guys looking like in New York? We'll do Tennessee Bears weather around the country. You have to say that often you have to do a search to find it. Well, I wonder why that is, Tina. I wonder. I mean, am I not showing up for you? Why did you retract that Maple Bacon? She's second bed. I don't think Diana will be in chat today. She's sick and she's still in bed. Oh no. What kind of sick, Mike? The kind of sick where you need to stay clear of her? Maybe you and Alexander need to go down and hang out at the airport or something. Or the bowling alley, maybe hang out with other people that'll make you sick. Yeah, tell her we all hope she gets well soon, Mike. Or gets to feeling better soon anyway. I talked to Mark yesterday for, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes. She's been sick. Oh, cold. We'll hope it's not more than that. Raining 42 in New York. It was very windy last night, but I haven't seen any damage. It was here also, Tina. In fact, it was windy just a little while ago and rumbly, but now it's sort of partly. It was noisy enough that poor little Chloe was down here trying to find a place to hide. I'd ask Brenda what the weather is here, but I don't think she's on. Let's see. My weatherman says one thing I just saw there said sunny. It ain't sunny. Uh-oh. I lost everything. Okay. Oh, there it is. Well, it's 34. But it should get up to 50 if the sun makes it out. I'll tell you what's going to be interesting in just a few days. Starting, tomorrow is going to get down to 27. Then we're going to have a 25, an 18, a 9, a 16, a 21, an 18, and a 12 degree day. We're going to have a cold snap for at least the next week and a half. What did Mike say? But me going to the airport, going away nice and warm doesn't sound too bad right now. So what kind of weather you got, Mike? We got snow. Carol says they got snow again in Michigan, but not coming down as fast as yesterday, and the wind has died down quite a bit. Mike says he hasn't checked the temperature this morning, but yesterday night was minus 33. Whew, that's 33. Now that's 33 your temperature, but I'm pretty sure that's below zero here too. Okay, temperature. Not Kelvin. We don't want Kelvin. That is Jesus, Pete, that's minus 27 Fahrenheit. Damn, you guys are cold. Maybe you shouldn't get out. Maybe you ought to stay inside. I might change my mind. But I don't want you to get sick. Let's see, since Mark ain't here, I guess that does it for the weather today. That's all we see. Only stations reporting. And Tim out on another 10 degrees for the wind chill, so it's more minus 40. Yeah. And when you get down to minus 40, I think minus 40 C and minus 40 F are the same, I believe. I think that's the way it goes, the way it works. Yeah, minus 40 is minus 40 on both sides. Whew, dang, that's cold. Man, that makes me shiver. It reminds me of growing up, I had a quiet, you know what, hang on just a minute, guys. I didn't shut my door, although I don't think my significant other's up. I'm going to tell a story about a coat. Just hang on a minute. I'll tell you, the first thing you do is you don't have to go outside, okay? He was making suggestions for the show a few minutes ago, but I think he's through making suggestions. Oops. Okay, now I'm back. Let me see where I'm at here. That reminds me of an old coat I got. My next door neighbor. Here he is, right there. Good morning.
Morning. Sorry I'm running late.
That's all right. We were just telling stories, and I was getting the weather around the country. So it's your turn.
You're getting the weather around the country?
Well, Tina and Mike and Carol, it's minus 33 up at Mike's, which
That's
is minus
that's what it
27.
looks like outside.
Oh, yeah. Nice. How deep is
Well, it depends on where you're standing.
it?
We had a
Well, yeah, of course.
we had a good old fashioned real blizzard yesterday, and we've got places with no snow, and we've got places with a lot of snow. So,
Yeah.
but
The
it's
wind leaves
three. It's 3 here right now, but it says it's negative 17 feet. The wind chill.
negative 17.
Yep. But
Well,
our
I
our
actually headed to
neighbors
the
to the
airport.
east have had terrible cold, like Casper and that Sheridan country. They got way below 20 below, 25, 26 below.
What the hell?
And what did Mike say it was in Canada?
He said it was minus 33 C, which I figured out, I believe minus 27 here.
Oh yeah, so it's pretty close to the eastern Wyoming temperatures.
Yeah, he's I think he's hinting around that he's going to Hawaii, but I don't know whether to believe him or not.
This would be a good time to go.
Yeah, well, that's what he's saying. Rhonda just now figured out he's maple bacon. And Tina or Carol's asking about closing schools up there. If we close schools for minus 20 or colder air temp. Yeah, a lot of schools can't stay heated when it gets down that cold, especially if they're using electric or heat pump type heat. Yeah, Rhonda just got here. I'm just kidding about going to Hawaii without the wife. She would be really well. That's what I was thinking. That's why I was wanting some clarification because I didn't want to have to come up there to your funeral next week or to come to Hawaii to identify the body. That's right. That's right, Rhonda. He would never be able to go home, would he? On Wednesday, they closed all schools in our city and outside the city. Visibility was terrible. School buses wouldn't start. Wow, how cold was it that day? Surely you guys run heaters on your engine blocks up there. Do you have one, Mark?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I got a plug sticking out of the front of my pickup. I don't use it very often, but
Do you run? She said they closed a bunch of schools around here because of potential flooding. Now, Rhonda, did you move?
flooding.
Or are you still down around Atlanta? The one here didn't close, but told everyone they didn't have to come in if they didn't want to. Well, I know what that meant when I was growing up. You can bet your booty I wasn't going.
Not going to be there at all.
Yeah, Rhonda, did it flood though? Really? I mean, they were worried about it, but did it actually happen? Because I know there's been some floods around. Okay. Well, you're kind of in the better part of Georgia.
No, around Athens.
You know where Road Atlanta is, Rhonda? I don't know how close you might be close to there. That's in Brazelton. North of Lanier, yep. Shoot, Tina or Rhonda, about landed in a 7-Eleven and some trees one day flying into that Gainesville or Lanier. I guess it's Gainesville, the Gainesville airport. Scary day. Golly, bum, the weather was awful. It was rainy, awful, stormy. We could not see. So we had to go land in Atlanta and just barely got in there. Well, if you're not far from there, I may have to come down and camp in your yard or something. Yeah, there's airports, I guess, scattered all around down there. Now that you mention it. Yeah, you have to go out where Mark's at to get quiet. Come down, pitch a tent, and go see the 24. They're not the 24 hours. The Petit Le Mans in the fall. Can you see now?
Oh, now I can talk even.
Oh man,
they were filthy.
I blew out one of my lights yesterday.
One of your what?
Well, I've got this studio type light that I bought when I first started doing this because I thought I'd need it. And I do actually, it does make it better. It lit that side of the map up better. But yesterday I was sitting here. I tend to run them all the time because it lights up the room. And some days you need a little bit of extra light. I don't want to get that darkness sickness. And it just went kind of a quiet little poof and just went out. And it, I don't know what's wrong with it yet. It's probably blown up. I mean, it's an LED light, so I'm really surprised. But I guess it's not designed to run that much. I didn't get up there and check see if it was really hot. Yeah, it'll quiet down a little bit when you get the leaves on through. But that is motors. There's a lot of motorcycles right up in there. You're not too far. You're a little bit further down, but there used to be actually, it may still be there. Really famous motorcycle only campground and lodge and stuff like that up there. It's called TWO, Two Wheels Only. For a long time, that was up closer to. I can't think of the name of that little town. It'll come to me. So, Mike asked you a question there a minute ago, and we talked right over it because we were busy, but he said something to the effect of he heard that you got a new toy.
I do. I
can't find it now.
I got a big old side-by-side with a plow on
it. Side by side with a plow and a Jimmy hauling logs.
And I've been plowing. The first day I got it, we didn't have hardly any snow, but every little place we had a little snow, I moved it.
And well, how's the road situation right now?
Oh, I'll have some fun later on this afternoon. And it's got a nice it's a 2015, but it's got a nice heater in it.
Oh, that's right. You did say it had a heater in it.
It's got a soft cab kind of a deal, like an old Jeep cab.
And it got 4 seats or just 2?
Well, it's got a bench seat that's 3. You can put 3 people in it.
It don't have a back seat.
No, it's got a bed though.
Got a bed? Does it have a dump bed?
Yep.
Oh, damn! You scored.
Yeah, the wife found this and got a really good deal on it, and
Not
It
that
runs
old
like a
either.
top now. The plow broke on it right after we brought it home.
Uh-oh.
Well, it just
Hey,
sucked the rope.
Chuck, welcome in, buddy. What now?
Took the rope up into the winch
Such
that
that's it.
lifts the plow, you know. And
Yeah.
it's got a side to side hydraulics, and then it's got up and down with the winch. And it just pulled that rope in there and tightened it down so tight it wouldn't come out. So I had to figure out how to. I ended up having to cut the rope, and then there's a free spool.
Yeah.
I put a couple of rolls of baling twine underneath the plow when it was held up. And then I cut that rope and it just sat down on those spools. And then I hit the free, once the weight was off of it, the free spool lock would turn.
Oh, okay.
And then I just ran rope out till I got the good rope and tied her back up with the bowline, and away we go. It's working great.
That should be that rope that's damn near unbreakable.
Mike, I think it's a. Now I got to think about this. I think it's a 1500.
Yeah, I think that's what you told me. It was a 1500.
I'm terrible.
Maple bacon, it's one of them. No, it's not. Never mind. I started to say it's one of those Canadian units, but it's not. It's a Ranger.
Yeah, Polaris Ranger.
Polaris, yeah, made in the USA. And I've been watching.
High speeds, probably 30, 35 miles an hour, maybe.
I've been watching the Dakar race. That's something else I watch every year, and it's this for the last 2 or 3 years. It's been in Saudi Arabia. Used to be a race from Paris, France, all the way to Dakar, or some country there on the coast in Africa. I can't remember. Dakar was the coast city, and a bunch of guys just started doing this thing in their cars. And they're racing through the desert and doing all kinds of, well, it's developed over the last 20, 30, 40 years into this big race. And they have units like that that are probably going 60, 70, 80, 100 miles an hour. Those side by sides now there's 2 categories of them in that race yesterday, or right now, this week, it's still going on. And, God mighty, they fly. And I don't know,
they make sporty models, and they make
this is a sporty model.
Mine's a working model.
Yours a what?
It's a working.
I know. I get that. I'm just saying that's becoming
it's my
thing.
Tractor. And then, Mike, I don't think I can put a snowblower on it. I can put if I can find one, I'm going to put a little bucket on it, like a front end loader, kind of a bucket. But I don't.
Does it have a PTO on the front or the back?
On the back, and it's got tracks or wheels.
Yeah, that's the cool thing, Mike. I forgot about that. He can take the wheels off and roll tracks under it and make it a tank and make it a bulldozer.
And they are heavy sons of bucks, I'll tell you that.
I bet they are.
Put them in the barn, and it took 2 of us to lift them and put them in the barn, but because it had 4 separate tracks, 2 long ones for the rear and
it's got duals, front and rear. I thought maybe it was one big one that did both.
No, it's just they're separate. I think so that you can still steer it,
Mike's gonna come down and stay with you. He wants to ride it. I can tell by how excited he's getting.
Well, I never thought I'd have one. But it's as handy as a pocket on a shirt. I'll tell you.
year or two from now, you'll be wondering how you ever lived without it. You may already be thinking that.
It's sure saving my back. I know that much.
Oh yeah.
But I can run out and feed with it or whatever I want to do. And it'll go anywhere. So far, I've driven it down through the deep snow and down to the ice, and it's cool.
It's cool.
I think so.
I need to come back out there so I can drive around in it. Has Kaylin driven it yet?
Oh yeah.
You know, she was going like this, waiting to get it.
She needs to figure out where the edges of her vehicle are at, but she's been driving.
Bumping into things, is she?
Well, going off the road a little bit.
Yeah, well, she'll learn.
Wandering around places that I'm like, you're getting close to that sagebrush patch. Maybe you should turn it the other way. You got a whole road over there.
She's trying to leave that open for somebody else. Well, here's to it. I'm glad for you.
Well, it's like I said, it's a savior.
I tell you what, in many ways around here, it seems like those have taken the place of just a regular four-wheeler ATV. You don't, I mean, that's about all you see on the backs of trucks and things now when they're going up to ride in the mountains. And
well, I was surprised. I was watching the Duck Boys, and I hadn't really paid attention in the past because I didn't have one or
yeah, I didn't care.
Have any use for one, and they're running around those swamps. That's the exact model, same thing I've got. That's what they're running around in, and they're just handy. They don't have a great big footprint, you know.
Yeah.
They'll haul quite a little bit of weight, and they're just handy. And I've had real good luck plowing with it so far, but I'm keeping up on the plowing too.
You know, if you do that, you won't have any problems getting in and out. Mike says he's going to put one on his Christmas list and give it to Diana. You go to Hawaii and leave her there, you ain't getting nothing, buddy, much less a four-wheeler or a ute, whatever. Carol said, you better duck right now if you do. That's yeah,
well, they're not very fast. And maybe just because mine's older, but it'll get up to about 35 miles an hour, which is
that's all you need for working. If you're working
for what I want it for, that's all I want.
I mean, and honestly, yours is probably made for that, and they've got a whole nother class of them that's really made for speed, and you know that's a whole different animal.
Well, my nephew has one of those, and it runs like a scalded ape, but it looks it's still a Polaris, but it's a different model, and it looks different. It's built, more aerodynamic. And
well, Honda's even come out with some. I saw, I think there's some in that race this year, and I don't remember ever seeing it. I think I mean, they've had four-wheelers for years, and they had years ago, they had a four-wheel side-by-side Odyssey thing, but it wasn't like you've got a ute or whatever. But I know they're making those now, and I saw some the other day being raced. I think there's a couple at Dakar, and I know I saw them in some other stuff, so they're catching right on with everything. Used to be one of the biggest classes in the Dakar rally was ATVs, four-wheelers. Yeah. There was always a buttload of those things down there racing wherever they were at. And now and that class almost went away when these things really started coming out and getting popular, and they opened up classes for them because it's if you're going to race four wheels like that on that kind of size, then those things are a whole lot easier on you than driving an ATV across the desert.
Yeah.
I mean, I've driven ATVs a fair bit, whatever you want to call them, four wheelers, and they're tiresome unless you get. I'm sure they probably make some with power steering now, but I mean, I used to drive those things all day long working with them. They wear you out. Not to mention the fact that there's no weather protection, much less a heater. Does yours have an air conditioner?
The window's open.
Well, some of them have air conditioners too.
Yeah, this one just has a. It's just
Halt! Look who we have in the room. Ian.
Holy buckets.
Good morning, Ian. Long time no see, buddy.
Sir Ian has entered the room.
Man, you've missed some of the best military training films. I've had several laid out for you. One on venereal disease.
Venereal disease and how to avoid the black VD.
Yeah. Some on airplane rivets. I watched one last night all about Packard V12 engines, which I didn't even know were a thing.
Uh-oh. Ian's got
frozen. Why are your fingers still frozen?
It's probably colder than dang.
You weren't skiing and got caught in an avalanche. Don't tell me that. Well, I mean, tell me that if that's what happened, but I hope not. There's been a lot of that going on down there. Hey, Cherie, welcome in. What's for lunch? And Chuck is with us in case anybody, I know I said hi, but I don't know if Cherie or Ian. Chuck is Tina's significant other. I would say better half, but I'm sure she wouldn't agree. Oh, taquitos. Well, I tell you what I'm going to do, because I've got a bunch to maybe talk about. We may not get through it. So I'm going to go ahead and throw my show up on the screen. And Mark's frozen. No, he's not. It's like noise stopped on your end for some reason.
I don't know if I can, before you do that.
Oh, okay.
Hang on just a second.
I'm hanging on. Hanging on.
We'll even show up.
Oh, yeah. The horses just standing there eating. They don't seem to care at all.
Well, they're downwind.
Yeah, they're
behind the haystack.
They're trying to get that wind to blow your way in, so it blows all that snow off of Wyoming and into Colorado. You guys can use it to ski on. Or avalanche. Oh, what did Ian say? We got them from the deli here. Walmart, no. It certainly feels like -17. Have to do a quarter-mile walk up from the parking lot. Oh, that's why your fingers are still frozen. You need to get you some you need a heated jacket and gloves. They're making some of that stuff now. It's real handy. It used to be a big deal if you had heated gear on your motorcycle. Now it's fairly common. Couldn't find your gloves. Uh-oh. You know you're going to get home, Ian, and somebody's going to say, oh, I forgot to put your gloves back in your truck. Hey, Rhonda thinks they may be with her remote, Ian, her TV remote. She can't find it either. Okay, let me open this up. I put a new quote on this when I set it up this morning. I forgot to do that yesterday. In her case, the cats probably have it. Well, they could be watching. Boink. Anybody figure out what this was about? This here $10 bill? Before I move on, I have a quote I like today. It says, boys, be ambitious. Be ambitious not for money, not for selfish aggrandizement, which I'm not sure is a real word, not for the evanescent thing that men call fame. Be ambitious for the attainment of all that a man can be. William Clark. I thought that was pretty good saying.
Sounds like an army.
Probably. He was in the army back when it was a whole different animal. But that $10 bill came out, I believe, in 2004 or 1954. I'm not sure if it's got a date on it that I can see anyway. Anyway, that was celebration of one of the anniversaries of the Lewis and Clark expedition returning home, or in 1804. That's kind of when they give them credit for it. It started before that, but and there's something it says, but I can't read it. I don't remember ever seeing one of those when they came out. I sure would like to have had one. Huge difference in which the dates, Tina. I know, but I can't find it. I mean, I don't know if it's on there or not anywhere, but let me see if I've got that. I know I can. Well, I can't. No, I don't know that because I can't make it do that. I can right here though. I'm just trying to remember what year that came out because, like I said, I don't remember ever seeing them. They sure are a handsome bill though. United States note. Ellis Roberts. One of those was treasurer secretary, I think, isn't it? Well, I don't see the date. I need one of them people that collects money to tell me. Perhaps another time. Anyway, we'll move on from there to the rule. Please consider hitting the like button or the unlock button, your choice. Maybe subscribe to the channel and leave a message, comment. And thank you. We got a special thing to talk about before we get started this morning. We have sort of in memorial that a gentleman by the name of Herschel Carman House. And Mark and I knew him just as Herschel pretty much. And he passed away the 10th, a couple of days ago. Or 3, whatever today is. And Herschel was a special kind of guy. Herschel was He was a master gunsmith who built muzzle-loading rifles from scratch, just like they did when the settlers first came to this country. And Herschel, I don't know why I've got this blocking everything. And Herschel, he didn't just make them. He didn't just buy parts and make them. He made everything. He made some of the first, what we used to call Tennessee or mountain rifles that I ever saw. And somehow his were always so much more elegant than everybody else's. And he always, from the time he was a kid, he was always out doing stuff in the woods and learning about things like that. And I don't know, I guess he taught himself how to build rifles. He served in the Marine Corps. Turns out he was in the Marine Corps at the same time Mark's dad was, which is another thing I didn't realize. I didn't realize he was that age. I thought he was a little bit younger than Larry. This thing said, Mark, his obit said he spent 16 months in Guantanamo.
So he went to Gitmo during that.
Yeah.
Tim Milligan was down there too as a Navy diver.
Oh, was he?
During that, all that whole Bay of Pigs mess that went on down there.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't think about that, but you're probably right. That would have been about the right time for all that stuff. And he was an artist. I mean, this guy, Mark knew him better and probably saw him a lot more. I hadn't seen him in years. One of the things I thought was really cool was that in 1989, he was the recipient of the National Endowment for the Arts and Humanities for his works on various historical projects, which he did a lot too, including the restoration of one of David Crockett's personal rifles. Now, I say one because I think he had more than a few. But in fact, Mark, I guess you called me up yesterday and told me about this.
Yeah.
He was in Butler County. I just dawned on me what Butler County, what that represents. Butler, Simon Kenton.
Simon Butler,
aka Simon Kenton. Sure enough, I just realized that. So anyway, I'll give you a little bit of an example of his handiwork here. I get back on the right page. This Herschel in better years or younger years.
Back in the day, holy buckets.
Yeah, that's his favorite dog. It said. This picture on the far left was 2009, and he was getting ready to give one of his. People would come here and he would do seminars and things. And this shed that he's standing in front of in the middle right, that's an 83 shot. And he actually, as far as I know, he was still building rifles out of this same shed. That's where he started, and he'd been building them out there for years. And another thing I didn't know, but he's almost always got a cup of coffee in his hand because he does in every picture I've seen of him, I think. But this is the kind of work he would do. I mean, that pistol at the bottom, he made several of these long barrel target pistols with double set triggers. That one he made for Randall Mills of Owensboro, Kentucky. That's a nice pistol. I'd probably come close. I'd probably call that a dueling pistol, but he made everything you see on there, though. Herschel made it with his own hands.
Including the barrel. And this one on the right here is labeled the Spears rifle, and it's I'm not going to read though. Apparently that was a somewhat recent rifle. I don't think it gives the date on it, but it says it was. I don't know when this article was done or they put this stuff up online, but I mean his attention to detail in the
I mean, you can't tell me that's not art. I just. Oh, and a double set trigger, in case you don't know, was that allowed you to set the front trigger is the main trigger. When you click the back trigger, then that front trigger gets set in a hair trigger position. So you just barely have to touch it, and that's what's best for target shooting and that sort of thing, because it allows you to have just really nice, crisp trigger pull. Hey, John, welcome in, buddy. Surf Bum has made it in the room. Ian said that's crazy craftsmanship. Maple Bacon said David Crockett. I was just watching the movie this morning with him in it at the Alamo. He did.
Was it the John Wayne one, Mike, or was it the later one? The one where what's that guy played David Crockett? He prefers David.
Fess Parker and some of them. No, but not.
Fess Parker was in some of them. John Wayne was in some of them.
Yeah.
And then, who played the? I can't ever think of his name.
Epson?
Who was on?
Epson?
No, who was on Tombstone? The guy that Wyatt Earp like slapped in the face. Johnny Tyler was the name of his character. Why, Johnny Tyler, you madcap. You remember
I don't know who he is, though. I can't think of his name.
What he's from Arkansas. Billy Bob Thornton.
Oh, okay.
He played David Crockett in the last Alamo.
But anyway, if you guys were ever interested in seeing, anything like this guy was special. And he created a school that he called, I think it's the Woodbury School. And yes, Tina, he has a Danny. Maple Bacon says, right, that's the one he's watching, Billy Bob with Billy Bob
Thornton. Yeah, that's a good one, though.
And just a little bit more work with this picture down here.
Look at the engraving on that rifle barrel.
I know, right? And what is really unique about it is that it's new and it's really good and it looks old. You know what I mean?
He didn't brown stuff and things like that.
Everything about the work he did on there looks like it could have come right out of 2 centuries ago.
Yep.
I mean, literally. And I guess that patch box in that top one is supposed to be sort of if he put a patch, that was his design, his own design. And I guess he used that on a lot of rifles that he built where it had a need for such a thing. I see one down there in the bottom that has a different one on it, but that's got a whole different butt on it too. It's got like a shotgun butt. But that picture at the top I thought was telling, because when I was that age, I was trying to thinking, I was reading books thinking, oh man, I wish I could build me a canoe. And I don't know if he helped build it, or how he got it, but that's a homemade canoe. And he's standing there in a coonskin cap that I guarantee he harvested and tanned and put on his head. And that's on the Green River, down by the Green River where paradise lay. How in the heck did I get? Okay, there I am. Anyway, so rest in peace, Herschel Walker. He was a good one. I guess according to this, and Mark told me he'd been fighting cancer for some time. He thought he beat it in 2009, I believe. but evidently it or another kind came back. Bad stuff. Anyway, good on
Look
you.
at the lines of those rifles, amazing.
Oh yeah, it is. I mean, everything about them is just
Amazing.
look at the tiger stripe in that one. That's a nice piece of wood.
Little fine,
Yeah.
straight, just gorgeous lines. Wedges, no pins.
Something else. Did you oh, he's gone.
I'm back.
Did you ever go there? Or did you ever see him make a lock?
That Canner's Cave.
Did he how
Because
did he make
he came to Dad's show every year
right?
and put on a school.
Did
And his cousin Willie was there making knives, and he was doing this kind of stuff, and it was gorgeous.
this yeah, these rifles didn't happen fast, Carol. That's very true. In
But
fact,
quicker than you think.
yeah, but
Quicker than you think.
I do remember this is probably in the early 80s or late 70s. He was so far behind. I mean, you'd order a rifle and it'd take you a year and a half or 2 years to get one. That wasn't, but that, it wasn't so much because he's dragging his feet or slowing down or anything. He just became, I think he became overwhelmed because of just all the attention he suddenly got when he sort of came out. But anyway, he was something else. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about Lewis and Clark and their trip up the Missouri River. And I just threw this together because there's a lot, about every state they went to has put up one or two monuments to about each of them. And some of the people who were with them, like the gentleman standing here on the far right, is York. And York was, for lack of a better way to say it, York was Will Clark's servant or slave, which he remained so even after they came back, which really always bothered me because Will Clark was a sort of a hero of mine growing up. I read about one of the first books I ever read that meant anything to me, history book, was about Will Clark, biography of Will Clark. And York he did a lot, and he helped. It was interesting because on the trip they had sort of a democracy in that everybody, anytime they made a big decision, everybody in the crew got to vote on it, including York, which was really unusual back then because black men couldn't vote on anything. And he was part of the crew and treated as such. And he thought when they got back to civilization, he'd be, set free, but he wasn't. So Will Clark let me down there. Not that he had the answer to me, but. Well, what is for breakfast, Rhonda? We might want some. That's possible, Tina. He had a lot to do with getting along with some of the Indian tribes, and he did a lot of stuff. I mean, he helped move the boats. He did a lot of the hunting for them. I mean, he just did a lot of stuff. But anyway, these are just some of the memorials that are out there for him. And I'm honestly not. I think this Lewis and Clark historical trail marker is in Montana, but I'm not positive. But I think it is. Up. And then there's this one statue down here of Lewis and Clark. Lewis is one with the funny hat. And this is Lewis's dog. whose name is going to evade me now, but he was a big, not a Chessie, Newfoundland, I believe. And he took him with him out and back. He made it back. They didn't have to eat him or nothing.
Rhonda's eating hash browns and eggs.
Oh,
You can box some of them up and send them right out here right now.
yeah. She wanted to make a quiche, but I don't make a quiche. Have hash browns and eggs.
What are you doing, dog?
Okay. Anyway, so
Yeah.
they made quite an impact, and I can't find my cursor. There it is. And this is another one. I can't. Again, I'm not. Oh, this one's out at the Pacific, Kelsey's Ocean, and I put that boy be ambitious thing in there. I meant to take that out. The object of your mission is the Pacific Ocean. And that's one of the things that I guess you learn that in history classes, but they were trying to find a Northwest Passage, an easy way to get to the West Coast across the United States or North American New World, what would become the United States, so that they could expedite trading with the Far East, and because otherwise you had to go all the way down and around the Cape Fear, isn't it? Or whatever the bottom that one is down there at the bottom of Magellan Straits in South America, and that's a rough one. And it takes a lot. It's a long trip. That's why the Panama Canal is such a big deal. He keeps saying maple bacon because of Mike, and it made me hungry. It's a maple bacon donut, though, Ian. Oh, maple sausage, too. That's good. Hash browns and eggs and maple sausage, and she's not going to offer anybody else any. Except maple bacon now. He's going to go make pancakes and have maple bacon. Ian says, Will Clark never won a World Series with the Giants. He let me down, too. Yeah, sorry about that, Ian. He just didn't have the arm at that point. Oh, we got to stop talking about food. Sorry.
Come here.
Making everybody hungry.
Come here. Come here.
So this is basically what they looked at and what the United States purchased from France, more or less, and and plus some. And if you can see colors, then this pink is part of the Louisiana Purchase, and up in this northern left corner, the white, that they were up in there exploring also, because this border was contested with our neighbors to the north. And there was also British, like Hudson Bay Company was trying to get down into this part of it wasn't our country back then. They were trying to get down into here for the fur trade. And that's what people in America wanted also. So this trip had a lot to do with that also.
And the Russians were already there.
And the Russians too. Yeah, in fact, the Russians had a lot to do with trapping the ocean otter, the marine otters out of this area and all the way up around through here as far as they went. But anyway, that's up. Oh, damn it, stop that. So he went up to Missouri as far as they could go. There's South Forks and Three Pass. And name that movie in 3 notes.
Mountain Man.
Anyway, they went up as far as they could to the falls of. Well, actually, they carried their stuff across the falls. Dang it! of the Missouri, and then they went on till they got over here and hit the Snake and the Columbia River. So once they got across the Continental Divide, then they had to find this river, and then this was like a sleigh ride to the ocean. And they wintered out there, and then they started.
Didn't they take horses?
Huh?
Didn't they obtain horses from
They obtained horses from the Nez Perce, I believe, or the Shoshone.
Shoshone?
And what's the matter, Ted?
I don't know if they do that last part of the trip in a boat or were they horseback?
Well, I thought they eventually did it in a boat, but they did have horses then. I forgot. You're right about that. I'd have to look at that again. But if they did it in boats, they did it in dugouts that they either made over there or obtained from the natives on that side.
Because part of the deal with what we used to call Sacagawea, and now they call Sacagawea or something like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Camp Lejeune, Camp Lejeune.
Yeah.
But she met up with her brother, I think. They went up into the mountains there and
I've got a picture of that.
Western Montana and bumped into her brother, who she hadn't seen because she had been captured by the Mandans, I think, and that's where that's
where they found her, and she was at that point she was married to Charbonneau.
What a cool name!
But yeah, and I didn't know this either. But there's a I don't know. Did you ever see Pompey's
pillar?
Well, pillar, rock, something. I can't remember what they called it.
Pompey's pillar. It's on the Crow Res.
And that's something that Will Clark named for Sacagawea's young'un.
Oh yeah.
And his name is carved on it. It's one of the only places in the whole expedition, the whole travels, where they actually left a physical mark out there to show they had been there was on Pompey's
pillar.
Yep. Now this is a map. I was going to show some maps, and I was going to show several, but they were given some maps that look similar to this in the eastern part, and they went over further than this. But out here, they didn't know diddly about the mountains in the west, all the way out to the coast. And
who had done the maps?
Well, the maps weren't very accurate. So what they did was they gave what they had, and Will Clark redrew them basically.
Oh yeah.
And then he drew them, and then they redrew them when they got back to Washington. I think these maps came out a couple years after they got back. But this is what he added in, and they over the years they've discovered that his maps that he drew on the ground by surveying and his ability with a compass and judging terrain and all that was pretty spot on. It's pretty damn accurate. So
that river that's coming up, that's like a third of the way up the map, that's going straight west. It's coming from the west. Is that the Platte?
Down here?
Yeah, right there.
It says River de la Plata.
Yep, that's the Platte.
Yep, that would be the Platte. That's
Nebraska. Across Nebraska, and then there's Wyoming right. You're on Wyoming right there.
Right in here is Wyoming. So that means 3 passes right in here somewhere, right? Or is it over here?
North of where you're at. Right, a little higher, right in there.
Right in here. But anyway, that Will Clark was kind of in charge of doing all that kind of stuff. And like I said, they found out he did a pretty jam-up, jelly-tight job on that. What's Brenda saying?
Tim said you didn't get any rest.
No. Oh, Tina's telling on me. Yeah, well, I didn't get any either. I just finally got up and took a shower about 5.
Were you the reason nobody got rest?
I don't know. I don't know why. No, I wasn't the reason. I don't know why she didn't. I didn't. I just couldn't get. It's one of them nights when I just couldn't shut my brain down and
Was
I
the
couldn't get
moon,
comfortable.
was the moon full last night? I just remember.
I'd have to look and see. I don't know. Maybe I need to check that. Actually,
I don't sleep worth a darn. I can like call it like it must not have been because I wouldn't have slept either. So
this is the first fort station they built on the travels. When they overwintered, they usually built some kind of a small fortification for them to live in and protect them, and just in case. And this one's actually Fort Dubois, which was they hadn't even started really. This is where they did. This was built, and this is where they gathered the soldiers and the Corps of Discovery basically mustered here, and then they started from this point and went north.
so this is in Missouri.
This is in Missouri, or what's above. This might Du Bois. Is that Iowa?
Well, it is. I was just north of Missouri there. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think this is on the north side of the river.
So it's on the Iowa side.
I think so. I don't know anything about it much except till last night, today. And this is
I just about I was going to jump way ahead. I was going to ask you about your title there, but we're not up to there yet.
Which one?
On your name.
On that fort?
Toby Ford. Floyd.
Oh, you know what I'm talking about then.
Yeah, but we're not up that high up the river.
No, you don't need to tell it yet. So the boats they traveled as far as they could upstream, mind you, upstream in boats, and they had one large boat that was called. They've called it so many different things. Apparently, I always thought it was some form of a keel boat, and that's probably what it was. But they just often referred to it just as the boat, and for some reason, people are so anal these days. If you don't say it exactly a certain way, maybe it's not what it is. But I've always read it was a keel boat, and it sure as hell looks like one. But anyway, if you notice, it's got oars and the men rowed, and it's also got this. It had a small cabin area on the back. It was probably officers' quarters, and they kept supplies and trade goods back there. And then they also had this upper deck that they could stand upon and point and move about smartly and such as that. But they also had what?
Move about smartly.
That's what my friend David Harrell used to say all the time. We're just here moving about, standing here moving about smartly and stuff. And they also took two what they referred to as pierogies. Now, to me, a pierogi is a dugout, or maybe it's spelled differently. But I thought it was the same thing. But
that's just a pirogue, man. That's a.
This a pirogue? Would you call this a pirogue?
No, I wouldn't call that a pirogue unless it's the boat on top of the flat deal. Maybe that's what it is.
Oh, okay. I know what you're saying.
They were just dugout canoes. Basically.
Yeah, that's what I always thought.
Yeah.
But these were a little bit bigger, so maybe it smelled. Maybe it spelled different. But anyway, they started out on Monday, May 14th, 1804, and I just realized the date at the end of this is wrong. Because they had 1804, and it should have been 1806. Anyway, they set off with one keel boat, which they had. This was part of the things that once Thomas Jefferson started planning this and authorizing this, he put Meriwether Lewis in charge. What have I got? 2 pictures of that in here? I do. Well, let's look at this picture because
it's got more information.
Huh?
You got more information on the second slide.
Yeah, and this when you can see the boat better up here too, which is a drawing, but still.
They made 13 dugout canoes. They built bull boats.
They created 13 dugouts at the beginning. They weren't all in these boats. There was about 30 men, I believe, or 40 men. But they also built rafts and dugouts in different places along the river when they had to stop. And for example, the keel boat and the pirogues couldn't go that far up. So eventually they had to just park them. And then at least the keel boat, I know, came back downriver when they sent some back. They sent a crew back with samples and a whole bunch of stuff that they collected and to kind of pass on the word. And I don't even know how long that took those guys, but they got back quite a few months before the main party did. But they took the big boat down, as I recall. And I don't know about the 2 little ones. The other crew might have taken them. But that's how they kind of kept in contact. I mean, they might as well stepped off on the far side of the moon. As far as
Tina's correcting you. It's a pirogue. Pierogi is a food.
Well, I get that, Tina, and I know, or Carol, I know that, or Tina, or both of you, but I looked it up, and there is a pierogi that's a boat. And there is a pirogue, that's the smaller dugouts, I believe, but I looked that up on something, and it actually did list it this way. And this is what it's called in all the documents that I dug up.
Well, how do you spell pirogue?
Well, I don't know.
The French say it.
Hey, Dave, Space Mountain Dave.
Cajuns say it.
Is a Cajun man a man? If he is, why don't he speak like a man? See, that pierogi is spelled different, isn't it?
I don't know, maybe.
No, I don't know. I guess it's not. I don't know. I looked it up and it's just got one R in it, I thought.
So you're Buffalo Bill? You're Lewis and Clark Buffalo Bill? I looked this up about half an hour ago and then I forgot about it.
Which what?
You're that $10 bill, that cool $10 bill with the Buffalo and Lewis and Clark on it.
Yeah, what about it?
1901.
1901
was when that came out.
I was looking here to see if I spelled pierogi the same on it. Well, I did. I don't know. I'll have to go and come back to that. See you, Sherry. Have a good day. Thanks for stopping by. So anyway, they had that. They had 13. They also built rafts and bull boats. Bull boats were like, they build a frame and stretch like a buffalo hide over. They got that from the natives. The natives did that up in Missouri. And
they're round, and they just
they're just round.
You're just like at Mother Nature's mercy.
Yeah, pretty much.
You launching one of those with your paddle, you better. You're probably going to cross the river, but you're going to hit somewhere you didn't plan on, probably.
Yeah, or cross it 2 or 3 times trying to get there.
Somehow food always gets into our conversation.
I know, we can't help it. They were talking about Lewis and Clark with them.
So is that metal frame deal?
Yeah, this was the other thing they took with them. Lewis had this great idea, which at the time it probably was a great idea, that he wanted to see if he could create a collapsible boat. And They only took one with them though, and they wanted to see if they could something that they could carry portage over the falls and different things and carry across the mountains easier than a dugout or any kind of a real canoe. And I say real because I mean the made up kind. Need beatable bead pats. Maybe he did inflatable boats. I bet.
Well, it says eatable.
Oh, edible boats. Oh, okay. Well, some of these might have been. They're made out of buffalo hide.
If you just boil that buffalo hide down, you could probably eat that.
You could chew on it. I'd say it'd keep you alive a little while. So anyway, he got some help when he was still in Washington getting ready for this trip, and they designed this metal frame boat. And this is steel, so you can imagine that if carrying that across is better than a canoe, the canoes are pretty damn heavy. And then his idea was you get this to wherever you wanted to set it up, which they did. And then they'd put like bark in the inside of it, I guess, that they could find locally, whatever they could find. And then I always thought they stretched canvas over it, but the articles I read said they stretched hides over it. And tried to seal them up and sew them up and put it on there. And apparently when they first did it, it worked. And it actually said it worked pretty good. And they 2 or 3 men could carry the thing across the portage, which was a whole lot better than, taking 6 or 10 to pull a dugout across. And, but then after they'd used it a day or two, they had a big storm. And apparently it filled up with water and sank. And after that, they never could get it sealed or something. So I guess somewhere out there in the Montana country or someplace, there's probably a rusted way frame that's great historical value. I don't know if anybody ever went and found it.
Ended up in one of them big reservoirs in South Dakota or something.
Yeah, it's on the bottom of one of them. That's probably about right. But anyway, they tried it. He took it with them. And that's another thing about this trip. They took a lot of stuff with them. I mean, they took a lot of journals because they wrote, and not just Lewis and Clark, but a bunch of the men, the soldiers in the boats that were, what's the word I'm looking for? Literate. They also wrote journals. Now, that doesn't mean they could spell, but at least they could write and make an attempt, because Lewis and Clark couldn't spell either, and they were the bosses. They both spelled horribly, but you can read it. And, but they kept meticulous journals. That's the thing. They all did, not just Lewis and Clark, but several of the men kept journals that were detailed and sufficient to actually write their own books about the trip. So you don't hear about them, but they 2 or 3 of them did write books. So before I get too much further here, now we probably ought to talk about George Floyd, not George Floyd.
Toby.
Well, Toby's actually the slave. That was what they call the slave York. He was Toby, and that's why I made a name with him and Floyd. I'll know in a minute because I got a marker. I'll show a marker, but they left St. Louis or St. Joe, or actually Fort Dubois, with, I think it was 2 leaders and 40 men. And they came back with 2 leaders and 39 men on a trip across the country where nobody had, I can't say nobody had ever been. Nobody had explored. Not many, if any, white men had gone through, European descent type people. And they came back, and they managed to come back with all their men except one, and that was Floyd. And they think he died of a ruptured appendix. He died not too far up the Missouri River, and he became ill, and they tried to treat him as best they could. At first they thought he had some kind of a stomach issue, later on, I mean, I guess the way they described it, history has decided probably had a burst appendix. Too bad they couldn't reach in there and cut that damn thing out. I am foul mouth this morning. I apologize, guys. I realize I'm just cussing. An edible Pop Tart mascot. What? Now we're talking Pop Tarts. Anyway, and they buried Floyd on the top of a hill overlooking the river, or on the side of a hill Anyway, he's overlooking the river.
Is he in Iowa or South Dakota?
I think he's in South Dakota. But it was before they ran into the Mandans or anything. Were they?
Yeah, it was about the time they were getting ready to meet our friends to Lakota.
Yes,
which they had much more trouble with than the Mandans.
Yes, the Mandans weren't too big of a deal, but the Lakota, they did have a few crosswords. Let's see here. Hang on a minute, and I'll tell you exactly where he's at. Because I just looked this up again right before the show so I'd remember it. But do I remember it? No. They built the keel boat up around Pittsburgh. In this article, which is in Wikipedia, says that they do call it a keel boat. But they do say in the journals, most of the time they just called it a boat. So for some people, that means it probably wasn't. They think maybe that means it wasn't a keel boat, but I suspect it. I'd call it a boat too. You don't go around calling stuff by its formal name. You just call it a boat, you know? Excuse me.
You're Jenna.
Jenna. Yeah, you're Jenna.
That's my boat.
And that's my Jenna. Oh, I just read this. Another interesting thing while I'm looking for this was that Jefferson actually started planning this trip, and I'll show you, I guess you could say, the proof of that in a minute. He actually started planning this trip before they'd made the purchase. And so he was kind of dealing, they were sort of dealing in a covert way. And they actually have copies of letters he sent, like to Congress and things, when he was asking for the money to buy it. And he has his cipher key so they can decode the message and know exactly what he was saying, which I just thought was a hoot.
He had a little Orphan Annie decoder ring.
Decoder ring, exactly. He sure did. Charles Floyd. It was Charles Floyd.
Charles Floyd.
Sergeant Charles Floyd, in fact. This one doesn't say where he was. It doesn't say where he buried him. That's not the one I was looking for. Anyway, he died on the banks of the river. And there's a monument there for him, and I've got a picture of that here in a minute. And I might have written in there where it was at. So when I get there, we'll know.
Sioux City, Iowa.
That sounds right. So it was Iowa then.
They buried him on the east side of the river.
So anyhow, so we were at the fold up collapsible boat, and I was talking about what all they carried. People back then didn't have the benefit of freeze dried food and pop up tents and down beds and inflatable mattresses, so they carried real world hard heavy stuff. They carried 50 pounds of beans and 100 pounds of sugar and 500 pounds of lead and powder to go with it and that kind of stuff. That's why they had to have these bigger boats. And they also, on this trip, they carried lots of scientific equipment that ordinarily wouldn't have been carried up like by trappers and such. They were going. Lewis had a very scientific kind of a mind, I guess, set, and so did Jefferson. So he was cataloging plants and animals and just all kinds of things and drawing pictures of them and recording them, and they would send some back every once in a while. In fact, they lost some in a canoe. They lost a canoe or something somewhere, and I know some of the journals got soaked. But they carried traps to catch animals to record, and because one of the many things they discovered
experimental weaponry. They carried all kind of experimental weaponry with them.
I've got a picture of an air rifle here in a minute.
Oh, you do have the air rifle.
I do. I wanted to put this in here because I thought this was probably about as good of an example of their boat as there is out there. Now, this Lewis and Clark expedition, a portrait of Army leadership, I thought was kind of interesting because this happened probably in 2006 or maybe 2003. But they actually built a boat. Not sure, but I want to say they built the boat up near where the original one was built. I know there's a guy up that way that does this sort of thing. This is the flag, a copy of the flag that flew on the back of the boat. And something else I thought was kind of cool is the eagle that's on this flag is still used on the Coast Guard. The ships, the flags that fly on the Coast Guard vessels still has this eagle on it.
Really?
I didn't go look at one. I don't know if it's an exact copy, but it does have this eagle. They carried that forward. But, all these guys that went with them, there weren't any Navy or, Coast Guard guys with these. They were all Army people. So this was done. I got to keep my hand off that button. There's a way to slow that thing down if I can just remember what that is. So they redid the journey, or at least part of it. So I want to put some of this in here. This is what it looked like on the outside. And I mean, just look at that. You can tell that is heavy. You're not going to flip that up over your shoulder and carry it over the falls of the Missouri. And this is what the cabin looked like on the inside. You can see there's writing. They have a writing desk over there. There's a what they call that, a theodolite. I'm pretty sure he was calling it that before he died, Tim. Which one, Tina? I'm so far behind, I don't know. I'm not sure. Tina said he was probably calling it that before he died. Maybe he's talking about his Charles Floyd. I don't know. Anyway, so on one side of the cabin, you had this kind of a setup. There's a rope bed. You can see they've got they're not tomahawks really, but small axes, hand axes, which could have been trade goods, or they could have just been the spares that they carried with them. I thought this was kind of cool the way they did this. They did cutaways and left things open so when this was on display, you could see it. And the sides of the boat, you can see here, were also storage lockers, and that's what this lower right picture is. There's one of their rifles hanging on the wall, and I don't know, probably spare sails. Down here, it looks like they got probably salt pork in a barrel and gunpowder or flour or who knows what all's down there. This upper one has some other stuff up too. Again, there's a writing desk, a bed. That's the same picture. That's this, but looking the other direction. I thought it was two sides. So anyway, pretty neat boat. And there's a picture of the rifle. Again, I think I've got a picture of that here just in a minute. And this is more of the boat. They used this. Obviously, they had kids on here to let them look at it and learn about it. And as far as I know, not far as I know it got in the water. They either ended up in a museum or they put it there on display. And there it's got a square rig sail. I guess that's another square sail, unless they also had the like a jib that went with it. And there's another name for that, and I can't remember what it is now. Here it is on the water. And you look at these guys are all in the original. Well, most of them are all in the original 1803 uniforms. There's a guy that muzzle looks almost like a smoothbore musket, but maybe that's the right thing because they were carrying rifles. They weren't carrying smoothbores, I don't think. And you can see something else I'll mention here in a minute. They've got a couple of deck guns mounted. They've got one swivel cannon, and then they've got a blunderbuss. They actually had two of those, one on each end, basically, of both. Swivel gun, which was a small cannon, and a blunderbuss, which was handheld, but it could be set up like a small cannon and a swivel gun. Okay, this was their rifles. And I've always been read that they carried a model 1803 Harper's Ferry rifle, which was the first standard rifle made by an American Armory for the U.S. Army. And before this, they always carried smoothbore muskets, which were just, not very accurate, but easier and quicker to load. Now, there's a lot of controversy has grown about this because some people now say, oh, this rifle didn't exist in 1803 when they left or when they went out and got their supplies. But I've always read that they were pre-production kind of models that they took out to test, and, they liked them, so they talked them into letting them take them with them. So this is what they went out there armed with regardless. And apparently there's some thought that they were actually cutting down some longer rifles and creating this version of the military rifle that was eventually going to become the 1803, which is still to me the same thing. They were creating a prototype, and this is what it was. But it was lighter, it was shorter than most that they were carrying back then, and it was a rifle, so it was more accurate. And it was a 54 caliber. Back then, most muskets were more like 82 caliber, so you got more bang for your buck with a 54.
And it was a half stock.
There was a
lot of stuff that happened. And it's got like the first checkered wrists.
Yeah. And it was this wasn't new, but it was an octagon to round barrel. And there was probably some other things too, but it was, I don't know, it probably had a metal ramrod. Military like to put metal ramrods on things. But that's what they carried out for a rifle gun. Again, all muzzle loaders, one shot at a time. But then they had this little puppy. That boat is a lot bigger than I expected. Yeah, it's huge, isn't it, Tina? And they had to drag that thing up the river physically. A lot of times they had to get out, hook boat ropes to it, and drag it up the river manually. But anyway, this is they believe that they carried a Ghirardoni air rifle. And I never would have thunk it. But this thing was actually used, and did I put that in here? I might have taken that out. For 10 or so years at the turn of the century, 1800s. There were groups of the Austrian, I believe it was Austrian, it might have been Belgian army that was outfitted to carry these things. And they said out to about 150 yards, they were considered them almost a sniper rifle. They were accurate, they were quiet, they didn't make smoke, which back then was a big deal. You know, it was hard to hide when your rifle gun made all that smoke. And this,
I think theirs were like 40 calibers too.
yeah, they were, and they were
killing deer and antelope with it.
And they were repeaters. That's the other cool thing. They had a tube. There's a tube right here on the side of the barrel. You fill that up with balls, and then this was full of like about 800 and something psi pressure that they had to pump up by hand. But you tilt it up. It's almost like loading a BB gun in a way. You tilt it up, open a little lever, and a BB or a ball fell into the slot, and you closed it, and then you just pulled it up and fired. And you could do that like 20 some times before you had to put more in it. I mean, that was quite a sophisticated weapon for that day. And they carried one of these on the boat with them, and it fascinated the Indians because they'd never seen a rifle, a wet gun, rifle gun that didn't smoke and didn't throw flames and make a lot more noise. I mean, this thing actually does crack about like a rifle, but it's, I heard them shoot one on YouTube. You can find them on YouTube, of course. And
Dad's got a buddy in Pennsylvania that got a hold of this.
Oh, really?
This gun and recreated it completely.
That wasn't Herschel?
And no, it wasn't Herschel. It was a guy out of Pennsylvania. He's gone too. But we shot it over at Fort Frederick, Maryland.
Oh, you got to shoot it.
And it was cool.
I would like to have done that. That would be cool.
It was a little awkward. The shape of it's a little odd. But
they could have refined it a little bit more, but that's how they were probably still trying to figure out how you make a pressure vessel to hold that much air pressure and not blow up in your face.
But it was, it would zing that 40 caliber ball out there pretty accurately. And like I said, I think that they killed deer and antelope with this gun when they.
I'm pretty sure they did. I think if you read the books and the journals, like Lewis and Clark's journals.
Yeah, and the natives were like freaked out by this thing.
Yeah, and not only was it quiet and didn't smoke, but they could shoot it. Like it says something about Lewis could fire it 16 times the one he had. And that freaked them out too, because this was, one of them guns that you shot all week, load it and shoot it all week. Interesting little tidbit too. This
shoots.
What
did Sean Connery say in The Wind and the Lion? Something about a rifle. It shoots. I'm not going to remember it. Sorry.
Because he preferred the sword, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and a single shot rifle. I can't remember the term he used.
Yeah, I can't either. I remember him talking about it.
It fires something.
So this leather pack is what they carried. This is actually the military style pack that the infantry that used this rifle in Europe carried. And there's a cleaning rod, which it didn't really need much. And this long tube over here on the side was part of the pump. And they actually showed how to pump it on this guy that was doing it online. He showed how to pump it up. And they think it took about 1,500 pumps to get it up to max pressure. 1,500 pumps. I believe it was 1,500. It might have been 15,000. It was a lot. I think it's 1,500. So when they took it into battle, they just didn't take one canister. They had three. They carried two in a pack, They had tubes. Some of these tubes are full of balls, lead balls, and bullets, and then they carried one mounted on the gun, ready to go, in this tube full. So it was a pretty sophisticated rifle for its day. I mean, that's a cool thing. I didn't know about this. I think your dad may be in the first. Somebody, either your dad or somebody like at Friendship, told me about this rifle. I didn't realize they had this until, sometime in the late 70s, early 80s. I learned about it. So after that, I just became, enthralled with the idea that they had air guns back then, and not just an air gun, but an air gun that would shoot and
kill a deer
with it. Lewis wrote, "My air gun astonishes them very much. They cannot comprehend it shooting so often and without powder, and think of that as great medicine." Let's think what a benefit that could have been for.
Yeah, you'd had
carry powder.
You'd had 10 or 15 guys with those things, and you got and the Lakotas came down to like charge you some rent or something, and you needed to beat your way out of there, which is kind of what happened.
Steal their ponies.
Yep.
Anyway, that was a pretty cool thing. So on that boat, they also had a lot of things to trade the natives, and one of the things they carried were these pots, which were iron pots. Now, I don't know if these were cast iron or if they were a sheet metal type pot, but they carried something like this. They think they might have even carried like this corn grinder, and then of course they had all kinds of trade beads and that sort of thing to trade, and I suspect they had red cloth and all that usual stuff,
knives and
tomahawks, axes. The one thing I don't believe they carried with them was alcohol, which was an issue out there over time.
And peace medals.
Huh?
And you got peace medals on there.
Yeah, and they also carried peace medals, and these things were supposed to be a symbol of the Great White Father to the Indians in the West, that Jefferson was going to take. They didn't have to fight. He'd take care of them from now on, kind of thing. And he was the president, and they were now under his jurisdiction, which I'm sure if they'd actually understood what they were saying, they would have thought was hilarious. But anyway, that's a few examples of the things they might have carried. Also carried on the boat, again, weight. Here's an example of the blunderbuss. They had two of these and two of these swivel guns, which is more of a cannon. And while you could carry this and shoot it, it would not be very easy. So you kept it here, and you could swivel that if you had people boarding your boat. This was a close quarters. Both of these were close quarter weapons. You could load them up with grape shot and, fend off people coming trying to get on your boat. And they used the blunderbusses more as an announcement. They said usually they would fire either one of them twice or both of them once, just to let them know they were coming up the river. I imagine that the swivel guns had used more powder and probably a larger ball, so they probably didn't use them. That reminds me, forgot to let you all know that you are now under the jurisdiction of Ian. Oh, are we? Well, welcome, Ian.
He has claimed it in the name of the United States of Ian.
Yeah, United States of Ian. And this is supposed to, I put these shots together sort of as a representation of meeting the Mandans. That's what this painting said this was about. I don't know who did this. And of course, all these paintings were done after the fact. But this one does show York, which I thought was interesting. He's more or less in a uniform with a gun over his shoulder. Which, I mean, think about that. This one of the things that the South was most afraid of before the Civil War was their slaves becoming armed, because they knew if they did, they'd rise up, which can't hardly blame them. And he was never treated that way out there. This is down at the bottom is a rebuild, I'm sure, of the fort they built at the Mandan villages. The Mandans themselves lived in huge earthen lodges. How would you describe those, Mark? Like a mound house, but
Well, they're like a big dome.
yeah,
It was a big wooden framed dome that they put sod on top.
sod over, yeah, sod. That's what I was looking for. Now, this painting shows teepees, and they may have had teepees in the summer, but I don't know that for sure.
They did. They used them anytime they went after the buffalo.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
So they had the Pawnees and the Mandans and the Hidatsas and all them that lived in earth lodges in the winter time. They lived in teepees in the summer when they were following bison around. That's a really cool looking pipe too.
Ian said more boring videos, please. Okay, Mike's back. Got my pancakes, but no bacon, but I'm still good. Yeah, and I put this pipe in there. This pipe was listed amongst stuff that I think they brought back, or it may have just been an example, but this is not what they carried out to trade as a rule.
No, that's a Catlinite pipe.
This is a Catlinite pipe carved by Indians, and they used, in this case, lead or pewter to pour this cap out here. But this Catlinite is a red stone. That's its natural color, probably with oil off your hands and being heated up to smoke, and maybe beeswax, all kinds of things rubbed into it to kind of cure it out. But it's more or less that color, and it's the common name Catlinite is obviously named after George Catlin. I know it has another name. I can't remember the actual name.
Pipestone.
Well, it's also called pipestone. That's right. But it's neat stuff, and I guess at least at one time, only certain native tribes knew where to get it.
It's only found in Minnesota.
Yeah. So they traded it. They would bring it out and trade it for stuff that they couldn't get, and it got basically all over the continental United States over a period of time, just because the Indians were trading it amongst each other. Okay, this is supposed to be a painting of Minotari. If that's right, I think that's what it said. I believe that's a real tribe, isn't it, Mark?
Yeah, that's the Hidatsas.
That's Hidatsas, okay. And this is supposed to be that they were supposed to be doing a demonstration. They were watching them do a scalp dance. Fun thing to watch when you're in amongst them, and there's only 40 of you. And then I'm actually getting towards not the end, but getting close. This was out. I threw these kind of in there to show. But this top right is supposed to be them meeting Sacagawea's family, brother, whatever it was. And here they are with horses. And of course, the Nez Perce then later on they traded with them too. This bottom picture is actually supposed to be, oh crap, who did it say that was? I didn't label that one. Oh, Flatheads. That's supposed to be Flathead tribe. So I don't know if they were all that hostile, were they? I'm not sure about that. You don't hear much about them as far as being hostile.
They were pretty much our allies from the
Yeah.
get.
And of course, the top painting, is picture, whatever, is supposed to be a representation of Sacagawea or Sacagawea, pointing towards where they need to go. And this is Lewis and Clark here together. Oops, I wanted to read that because they did some really amazing things on this trip. I mean, things that, again, you don't hear about in the classroom because they don't have enough time to teach it all, basically. But on this trip, they contacted 50 different Indian tribes, not just groups, but 50 different tribes. Now, some of those tribes were different names, like Mark said a minute ago, Hidatsu and the other Minataris were, the same, or there was different tribes of Ogallala Sioux that were actually that were called different things, but so they probably included some of those, but they did contact 50 tribes as far as they were concerned. They kept excellent journals, not just the two leaders, but the other men as well, which we've already talked about. And they recorded 178 new plant species and 122 new animal species that they didn't know existed, at least on this continent, until they got out there to find them. And that includes everything from prairie dogs to the plains grizzly, which was a real surprise. They ran into a couple of those, and they were big, scary, and hard to kill. They were under attack. Seems like early on they were under attack from a big grizzly, and they liked to never stalked it before it got to them. And just to continue the idea of the shelters as they went, this is the Fort Clatsop, which was out by the Pacific Ocean near Disappointment. What do they call it? Disappointment, not Disappointment Point. Anyway, where they went out, and didn't they were disappointed, and that map is one that was drawn and that I assume came back, but it was drawn while they were out there. And if you look, you can kind of see it. That's the coast. That's the northwest coastline right in here. Obviously, it's seen better days. This painting in the bottom here shows Mount Hood in the background. And of course, this fort, I already mentioned that. Yeah, I read one of the books I've read about this, and it might have been the Lewis and Clark journals, is they got to a point crossing the mountains at near wintertime, I think, where they started going hungry a bit. They ran out of supplied food, and they weren't able to find the game that they once had. They had been finding before, and they were starting to get hungry. As they dropped down over to the Pacific, suddenly they ran into Indians who just had an abundance of food. Cape Disappointment. Thank you, Ian. See why I miss you so much, Ian? And that was something about the northwestern tribes of Indians were considered to be wealthy in that they had more leisure time. That's one reason they think they built these giant totem poles and had these elaborate big canoes, and because they had more time. They didn't have to spend all their time hunting and gathering. They just went down to the river and caught salmon, and then they would dry them, turn them into salmon jerky, or dry roasted fish, and so that's what they lived on. So life for them was a lot easier than it was for some of the other tribes. But what I read was Lewis and Clark, when they first discovered this, they thought this was great because they had a ready supply of food. But they got so tired of eating fish that they started sending their guys out looking for big game that they could hunt so they could have some red meat. And there wasn't that much out there on that part of that side of the on that western side of the mountains. I think at some point though they did find some elk, and that's when they discovered the Roosevelt elk, I believe. Although I don't know why they would have called it Roosevelt back then. You know anything about that?
They wouldn't have.
They wouldn't have.
They never got. They didn't get named till they were just elk.
They were just elk. Okay. Tina said, and salmon being very healthy also made them healthy. Yeah, it did. But after a while, they got, like I said, they got tired of eating it. They used to
oily fish. Sick of eating oily fish.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. The natives thrived on it, but that's all they'd ever eaten, pretty much. So, like I said, it made them wealthy. They could, in the Native American sense, that gave them time. They could have flint knappers, for example, that might sit around and make really fine Folsom points or something, as opposed to a tribe that couldn't afford to spend that much time making points, which we've talked about before. And here's some more facts. The expedition crossed the western portion of the United States and all. They traveled over 7,000 miles and took more than 2.5 years to complete it. The maps that were made collected helped open up the western territories to American settlers. And we can say that's good or bad. Depends on your perspective. The information that let's see here. The information they collected provided valuable information on the resources, the Indian tribes, geography. And that information was used to create the first comprehensive study of the natural history of the American West. And it paved the way for future explorers, traders, and settlers, including Zebulon Pike, mountain men such as Jim Bridger, and immigrant groups such as the Donner Party. I didn't know it said that. I didn't pay attention. The Donner Party. That's one.
I thought you typed all this up.
Do what?
I thought you typed this stuff.
Well, some of it I do, and some of it I cut and paste, and I just
the Donner Party and the Mormons.
I just didn't catch that it said Donner Party. I know that's probably not really.
I bet they were happy.
Yeah. But anyway, that's all truth. That's how they all went out to the west, at least to some point, on the original trails that some of these guys created. And this is some examples of some of the things they drew. And this was listed as one of William Clark's notebooks that he drew this, and they think this was a canoe from on the West Coast where they, had these animal carvings and things on both ends of the boat. And I'm not even going to try to read that. I thought I had notes on the bottom of the page. I don't see them.
Someday there's going to be somebody that can't read that anymore.
Yeah, no kidding.
We're rapidly getting there with our children, grandchildren.
I can read something here. It says they have, but that's it. Probably read if we had it in our hand, at least some of it. Anyway, that's an example of his notes. Yeah, I thought I wrote down something about this, and I don't see it here. Okay, let's go to the next one. See what I put there. And this is a copy of what Jefferson gave Lewis as his marching orders, if you will. literally. And if I recall correctly, he didn't open these until they got out there. Again, that's partly because this whole thing was sort of a big secret at that point, because it still wasn't being made public because everything wasn't settled.
Well, and they had full intentions of going to the coast,
Yeah,
and we didn't purchase that.
that's true. And there was a lot of that pressure was already starting to build between us and the English and British over that whole borderline out there, over the fur trade and other things that were being traded out of that part of the country. And so they didn't want the French and the English knowing what was going on. I don't know why the French mattered so much, but certainly not the English.
Well, Russians and Spaniards too.
Yeah, they too. Because the Spaniards still had quite large holdings in the Southwest that bordered up against this.
Yeah, right up to Northern California.
And this is what I was talking about before. This is Jefferson cipher down here, and it's a simple cipher. You look up here, and you can see that, if it's an A, it means this A in the first line or something in the second line. A B means a D, and just things like that. And this is a letter he wrote to Congress about, getting the money to purchase the Louisiana Purchase. And Secretary of the Treasury at that time, Albert Gatlin, insisted that he make the request in secret until everything was ironed out, so it didn't, make anybody else mad until it was too late, basically. And what Mark just says is, while Jefferson made no effort to hide the Lewis and Clark expedition from the Spanish, French, and British officials, he did try to shield it from his political enemies. Now, this is probably later on in the process then. By the time he was ready to request funds for the enterprise, Jefferson's relationship with the opposition in Congress was anything but friendly. So anyway,
I wonder if Albert Gallatin, if that's where the Gallatin River in, because the three forks are the Gallatin, the Jefferson, and the
Madison weren't
Madison. Yeah.
It probably was. It probably was. I would almost bet you they took a whole list of things with them and names they were supposed to use. I mean, I can just imagine somebody saying, "I'll get you your $15 million to buy the Louisiana Purchase, but by God, you better
name a snail after me.
You better name something after me."
Hey, buddy. What you doing?
And here's some more examples of maps that they had at the time. And somewhere here, I've got a map. I don't know if I might not have put it in here. That was one that Clark filled in. It was one they gave him that had a lot of stuff on it, but none of it meant much until Clark went out there and filled it all in. And there was another, speaking of creeks, on right after the Charles Floyd died, the next river coming into the Missouri they found, they named after him, the Floyd. Anyway, these are some different. Okay, it's catching up with me now. And here are some monuments. And I may have to pull my, I must not save my notes properly. Let me pull up some of my notes on this. I've got some more stuff here.
That's a really cool sculpture of Sacagawea.
Yeah, it is. And this is her death stone, or grave marker, which I can't remember where they said that was. That's why I thought I had notes on that.
Didn't William Clark end up raising her kids?
Well, there was some talk about that, but I didn't catch that in this. I need to do some more reading on that.
I think he took both her children to raise
Yeah, that's what I thought.
and educate, and they were half French, half Shoshone.
Uh-huh. This thing that looks like the Washington Monument here, this obelisk, that's actually the monument for Charles Floyd's grave. Believe it or not. That's why I wanted to find that, because I thought that was pretty impressive that they built that for him. But he was apparently he had helped Lewis obtain all the supplies and equipment that they needed for the expedition. So it was kind of a big deal. Oh, come on. Where's that at? Jean Baptiste. Jackrabbit's another thing they found. Village of small animals. A jackass rabbit, they called it. Oh, well. For some reason, I am not finding that. There's the iron frame boat. Anyway, so I got one or two more here that I think I can answer. I thought I printed notes on these at the bottom of the slide, but I'm not seeing said notes. Oh, I don't know where they're at. Okay. So anyway, that's some of the monuments that were raised to a few of these folks. Sad thing about this too, Meriwether Lewis didn't live too many years after he got back, and he actually died in Tennessee. I can't remember the name of the little town, but it's out in western Middle Tennessee, I guess you'd call it, on the Natchez Trace. And there's a lot of speculation, but most people think he shot himself. Apparently, he had always had bouts of melancholy and did not do well. You leaving?
Ian is.
Oh, Ian, good to see you, buddy. Man, you need to, if you want to some night when you're really excited and need something to calm you down, let me know and we'll watch a movie together.
Yeah.
I'm sure I can find them.
Was there a Floyd on the?
I think there is a Floyd on the Declaration, but I don't think it's this guy.
Yeah, this guy was a non-com surgeon in the Army. He wouldn't have.
Yeah. Okay.
A doubt.
Let me see what's the next one. And this was just a few things that like I said, I found that they had their name, that they were honored with. A couple of stamps. There's a 3-cent stamp back in 1954. And in 2004, we got a 37-cent stamp. All right.
Apparently, my youngest grandson his mother was reading him a book and his daddy was singing a Taylor Swift song.
Like I heard that.
And
maybe.
And Boone got up out of Mama's lap and walked over and punched his father.
That's pretty drastic. So today, instead of having a the end played, I decided to make it. It ended on Tuesday, September the 23rd, 1806. And that top left is supposed to be a picture of them coming paddling into shore at St. Louis. And this bottom one is a statue or monument that was erected to them in honor of Lewis and Clark at St. Louis. Again, to honor their return. The Core Discovery had returned. So instead of the end card, I made it that way. They said it ended September 23rd. They were back after 2.5 years, and it was just, I don't think we, dang it, I don't know if we appreciate just what a big deal that was. I mean, that was, like I said, they might as well have been stepping off on the dark side of the moon or Mars. I mean, they were as far away and unreachable as anybody like that. I mean, you couldn't even going down the river. It didn't take them too long. It only took them like a month or 2 months or something to get home once they started downriver. But it took them a whole lot longer to get there. But you still could.
That was like a big bobsled run. Just like, come on, boys, paddle.
Hang on.
Get that sail up.
Do what?
Get that sail up. The wind would have been with them too.
Probably. They're going the right direction. So
maybe sometimes too much.
Well, that's probably possible. Enough to break.
Yeah, I've heard it put that we actually knew more about the surface of the moon before the boys landed up there than they knew about this piece of country, the Lewis and Clark.
I wouldn't doubt that a bit. I mean, they had no real way of knowing. I mean, even then, the English had kind of entered it from the far end, either, down through Vancouver and that part of Canada, into that far northwest territory. But I don't remember.
Jefferson thought there were still mammoths.
He thought there could be, didn't he? I forgot about that.
That was one of the cool things he wanted to figure out, if there were still mammoths.
He was a very scientific driven person, so he was. I mean, some people could have sent him out there strictly and told him to go see what and then come back, but he wanted them to find things and explore and bring things back. Right. I mean, they sent live critters back sometimes if they thought they'd make it. Most of them, I don't know if most of them made it back, but
Tina says it was William Floyd that was the
signer
on the Declaration.
Oh man, sorry guys, I'm getting stopped up so bad. So pardon me, I'm just gonna be crude and rude and just I can't read what she put up there. No, the signal.
William Floyd, we just talked about.
Okay. Any questions? Reminds me of a James Bond movie I saw the other night.
Grew up in a town named Floyd, named after William Floyd.
That in Virginia? Oh, you grew up in a town named Floyd. And what state was that in? I just read a story not long ago about a woman that went back to Floyd somewhere because her family was from there and they were named Floyd and they were from, I mean, the town was named after them, but she didn't know anything about it. Yeah, that money was supposed to be legal tender, Tina, but I don't know for sure when it was. I don't know. And it doesn't look like normal money. It looks almost like some kind of special certificate. Let's see. I didn't look that part up. $10. This note is a legalized tender. I don't see it. I don't see it. I thought I always had a date right in here. Well, you guys can't see what I'm looking at, but sorry to get quiet and boring. I was just trying to see if I couldn't find that. Well, like I said, Lewis died.
It was legal tender.
Yeah, well, okay. It says legal tender, so that's
a $10 bill in 1901.
Got to do some.
It'd be really cool to find one of those.
It would, because I sure don't remember ever seeing one. I wonder if they call that something special. I mean, I wonder if you wanted to look for one online, would you just call it a Lewis and Clark $10 bill or a Buffalo $10 bill?
Well, I typed it in as a Lewis and Clark $10 bill, and it popped it right up.
Okay. Maybe that's all it is then.
And it was.
I'd love to have one.
It was minted in 1901.
Oh, okay, good. That was what would that be? The 100 and I wonder what that was for. The 100th anniversary, I guess, coming up, which actually would have been in 1804 to start.
So was Teddy our president then?
Teddy was in 01, I think.
So he probably had it commissioned.
He may have, yeah. Let me turn this off so I can see my screen again. Well, guys, hope that wasn't too boring. Mike, you have a good day, buddy. Be careful out there in that cold weather and the ice and snow. If you get really fed up with it, run down to Mark's. It's worse down there. Well, it's cold, maybe.
We're not as cold.
Yeah, not as cold. And the winds.
We are one of the few parts of the state of Wyoming where all the highways are closed, though.
Oh, God. Great. It's getting.
I hope you don't need nothing from the store today, because you ain't going to get it.
I'm sure people ran to the store even here because they talked about a little bit of snow. And they're talking about a little bit during the week. You won't be able to get bread and milk at the stores around here. Does that happen, Carol? And Maple Bacon's probably gone. But Carol and Tina and anybody else that happens to be Chuck, when they call for snow or say there's going to be some bad weather, do people run to the store and buy bread and buy up all the bread and milk in the whole store? Because that used to happen here all the time. You can walk in a store after they've done that, and there won't be a loaf of bread anywhere to be had. All because people panicked trying to make sure they weren't going to be stuck indoors with no food.
Well, I hope you don't need nothing from the store today, because you ain't going to get it. No bread or toilet paper. Did you just fall asleep?
No, I was just thinking about something. But it does look that way. I get lost in my thoughts. I was trying to think of something somebody said here. Anyway, guys, I hope you didn't find that terribly boring. I enjoyed that little dip into the Western.
I guarantee you they didn't find it boring.
Anyway, anybody else got any big plans for the afternoon? Mark's going to go out and play in the snow probably.
Yeah, I'm going to let it warm up just a little bit more.
You really think it's going to?
No.
I didn't think so. You've probably seen your high for the day. But I love to see that you're still an optimist.
Chuck says that Buffalo's going to get 2 to 3 feet.
Woo!
They're going to have a lake effect.
I wonder if anybody else up that way. I saw where
When do the Bills play next?
probably this weekend.
Tomorrow. Where are they
I,
playing?
I don't know.
I'm not sure. It's playoffs though, so did they win?
Yeah, it's tomorrow at 11 our time, so that'll be whatever time your time, 1 o'clock or.
Yeah. The Browns and the Texans play at 4:30. Oh, that's today. Rams and Lions.
We got
the Bills
today.
play. No, what? Tomorrow? No, the Bills are tomorrow at 1 Eastern.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah, that's what you said. I thought it said today for a minute. The wild card round. The Browns and Texans play today at 4:30. And the Dolphins play the Chiefs today at 8 at the Chiefs.
Oh, nice.
I thought the Dolphins won their division.
Hey.
Must not have, because that's a wild card spot. Anyway, and then the Steelers and the Bills play tomorrow afternoon at 1, like you said. Then the Packers.
Oh, that's right. They're playing the Steelers. Are they playing at home?
Their Bills are playing the Steelers at home.
And they're supposed to get 2 to 3 feet of snow.
That'll be a fun game.
Maybe they should shift it to Pittsburgh.
Maybe. Packers and Cowboys are playing at 4:30 tomorrow, and then tomorrow at 8, the Rams and Lions. That'd be the Sunday night game. Rams and Lions. I'd like to see the Lions win a couple more football games. And Monday Night Football is the Eagles and the Buccaneers. Lace asked the little boy, the little pirate boy at Halloween, "Where's your Buccaneers?" "Under my bucking hat, lady." Send in those parent consent forms, everybody.
Yeah.
The Bills are hiring. What are the Bills are hiring? What, Chuck? I tell you what, there's a lot of
hiring like a big snowplow driver.
Oh God, I'll never forget them. I'll never forget this as long as I live. Was the famous snowplow?
Oh, the snow blower, like make you a place to kick the football?
Yeah, it was the Dolphins playing the New England way back when, and it was snowing. It snowed all damn day, and they never cleaned the spot for anybody for anything. And that kick come up, and it was the New England was kicking to win the game. And that guy on that damn lawnmower or snowblower came out there and just cleared him off the spot, just pretty as you please. I was so mad. I was just screaming and throwing stuff at the TV. Oh, that made me mad. Oh, they're hiring shovelers for the stands.
$20 an hour.
Wow. Hey, you want to get up and say bye before everybody's gone?
Well, it'll be, if it is that, if they do get that kind of snow, it'll be a great game.
Yeah, I wonder if they, Chuck, do they have a heated field up there? For what it does, the Packers have a heated. They have heat in their field. Keeps some of the snow off of it.
Oh yeah, that runs underneath the turf or whatever, or the AstroTurf.
Yeah, I don't know if any of these.
I don't know what their surface is, but it's got heated lines under the ground.
Yeah,
I would think the Bills would have to have something just like that.
you'd think so. I wish I was able to go shovel snow for $20 an hour. You'd probably get in to see the game free too. When you probably didn't get a lot of chance to see the game. Where would you? I guess they'd be shoveling before the game starts. Let's try to
You're
think.
getting ready to say where are they going to put it?
Yeah, I was. I was going to say where are they going to shovel?
Get it out of there, and that's right.
I guess they'll just shovel it, push it down to the bottom of the stairs, and stop. No heated field, Chuck says he doesn't think. I wonder if surely the Packers aren't the only team that has that.
Don't call me.
I think some of the Canadian League teams do, but they about have to. What?
I said, don't call me Shirley.
Oh. Well, guys, Mark, I'm going to cut you loose, buddy.
Good. I'm going to go plow.
Okay, well, be careful.
My wife's getting ready to go outside. Maybe she's going to go plow.
She might be. How's that leg doing, by the way?
Mine?
Yeah.
It's most days it's pretty good.
Most days.
Well, when it gets real cold, it aggravates, and sometimes it still swells up a bit. But yeah,
you know what's causing that, don't you?
The cross that you have to bear.
Your old age. The one you can't get out from under.
Exactly.
All right, Chuck, you too. I guess you're rooting for Buffalo, so I hope they win. Actually, I'm going to pull for Buffalo too, I'm thinking. So, anyway.
Go Pokes. Go Josh Allen.
So, see you guys. I'm going to sign off too. Everybody have a great weekend, what's left of it, and I'll see you again next week. Tina, I'll contact you sometime this week. And if you're going to be around, I'll try to do a show for Thursday night, and we'll talk about it. Anyway, see you guys. Thank you. Thank everybody for being here.